guys, it's Cindy Leach, your polymer clay tutor, and today I'm going to show you how to use some polishing papers to sand your polymer clay pieces. Now, there are many ways to sand your polymer clay. I showed you in a previous video where I showed a unsanded piece versus a sanded piece, and there are low-tech ways and high-tech ways, and today I'm going to show you a low-tech way. Now, in the past I was using some of these wet dry sandpapers that you can find in the automotive departments of many stores. So places like Canadian Tire here in Canada has, if you go into where they're the automotive department where you would do painting and finishing and that kind of thing, you can find these wet dry sandpapers, and they come in pretty high grits. You can find them from 320, and 320 is the lowest grit. I mean, is the lower grit that I'm mentioning. 320, then 400, and 600, 800, 1,000, and sometimes you can get a little higher with that than 1,000 as far as grits go. But another option is to use polishing papers. Now, I found these polishing papers. They're these little 5 x 5" pieces of almost like a cloth. They're a bit of a fiber, and I found them at Fire Mountain Gems, and they're quite inexpensive. The little pack has 4 sheets in it. Yeah, it has 4 5 x 5 sheets, and you can get them in a bunch of different grits from 400. Let's see, I wrote them on the back here. 400, 600, 1,200, 4,000, 6,000, and they also had 8,000 grit, which is really a high grit. Now, the range in price, you know, with Fire Mountain Gems, the more you buy, the cheaper the price gets per unit. So if you're just buying one bag or so, it would be about $3.67 currently today's prices. And if you were buying up to 200 units of different things like beads and findings and things, it would be $1.59 a pack. So I picked up one. I was buying a very large order, so I picked up one pack of every kind, so I got them very cheap. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you how to use them. I've got, like I said, I've got the unsanded piece, so we might as well start there. Now, on this piece here, it's got a fairly thick layer of a translucent layer. This is one of the faux labradorite techniques that I do. On the back is pretty rough because I had changed my mind. I had originally put a textured backing on it, but it was not as even and as nice as I wanted it. So I can sand this one back to right smooth like I did this other one, and it would look much better. I would have to start, the polishing papers are a little too fine to get a lot of grit, or a lot of, to remove much with them. Easy for me to say. Anyway, so if you have a lot of clay that you need to remove to really get a nice base on it, then you would have to start with one of these wet dry sandpapers. And you could start with 320 grit, which is a good place to start for a lot of removal. And that's where I would start here on this particular piece. I would start with a dish of cold water. Cold water works better when you're sanding than warm water because it hardens up the polymer clay and makes it firmer, and then when you're sanding it, it's not so squishy and it's easier to work with. So I'm just going to show you here where I would start. I would start with a piece of 320 wet dry sandpaper. I like to work on a piece of fun foam. It gives it a cushion, and especially on any pieces that have a bit of a rounded surface to it. So I'm just going to dip my piece into the cold water with a drop of dish soap in there. That helps to keep the sandpaper clear of any grit or clay and stuff. So I would just sand away on the surface like this, swirling around, and you can hear it. can you hear it sort of gripping? That means it's working, it's doing something. I would continue doing that on all the surfaces, edges, the back, until I had a nice smooth surface to the touch. And when it was wet, it looked good. Now, I'm not quite done this. I would have to spend more time in it. But then I would move to the 400 grit. So I'd quickly do that. And it's just because I have a kind of rough surface that I'm starting off with. If your beads are really smooth and fingerprint free and that kind of thing to start off with, then you don't have to start with these wet dry ones. You can go straight into the polishing papers. So I would continue. Usually spend a few minutes on each, really getting a good feel for it. You close your eyes and touch it and you'll get a better feel for how smooth that actually is. I don't know, taking away one of your senses seems to help in that area. Anyways, so then I would move to the different grits of the polishing paper. Now, they start at 400 with these particular papers. This 400 grit seems to be a little different than this 400 grit, and you'll find that that's true if you're swapping brands around. So this is a little finer. Not sure why that is the case, but that's what I've found. Also, it's hard to remember what color is which grit and all that kind of stuff. So what I did right away was take a Sharpie and write the grit on the back of my polishing papers. That way I know which grit is in the right order. So you start with the lowest number. So in this case it's a 400, and I would just sand away like you always do. Now, like I said, this is the low-tech version. I do have other ways of doing it with machines and things like that that you'll get to see over time as I get the videos made. So you can see that little bit of soap in there is foaming up, and there's a bit of a paste there. It means that some of the clay is coming off and starting to sand up. Now, there's a difference already. I can see it, but I would keep going. Then I would go to the next grit, which would be 600 in this case, and on and on. So as you keep going, you put a little bit of time, a few minutes into each grit. Then I would go to 1200, pretend that I have spent more time doing this. It's especially easy on these flatter pieces. Rounder pieces tend to be, you have to kind of work them around holding it. I've got some other tricks later I'll show you for working with round beads. But with the flat stuff, it sure can make a big difference. Now we're at the 600 grit or 6,000 grit. They seem to make a big jump in what they carry there. They go from 1,200 to 4,000 to 6,000. And then they go to 8,000, I believe. Yeah, 8,000. So even with this minimal kind of not quite spending enough time on it, you'll see, I'll just finish this up. This has already got a lot smoother, and it's even got a pretty good sheen on it. If you can see that, and it's made a huge difference already. So even just that sort of abbreviated sanding version, there's a big improvement in the way it was. Now, if I was to continue, you would see that it would get even clearer and look even better. Now, one hand buffing way, now I like to use power tools to buff because you get a really high sheen, but you can do some buffing using a piece of craft felt, the stuff you get at Michael's or any of the craft stores. This will work beautifully, and you can just do it by hand and buff, 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 and it will make a big difference on your piece. Now, a piece of denim works as well. Muslin, cotton, even a piece of relatively smooth canvas will work. Is the camera picking that up, Doug? there's a bit of a sheen there, and it just makes all the difference in the world. So even if you haven't got all the power tools, you can do a beautiful job with your pieces by hand sanding and hand buffing. And you can try out these polishing papers, and I picked them up at Fire Mountain Gems. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it and it was helpful for you, make sure to press that like button. That really helps spread the word. You feel free to share this. If you have any comments or questions, do add them below in the comment section. And my question for you today is, have you ever tried these polishing papers? And if you have, what do you think? And what is your favorite sanding method if you sand? I will see you next time, and bye for now.